If we want to have effective business presentations, then we should be particular about listener and audience feedback. We should be paying attention to the kind of feedback that we get from our audience. And if we are attentive to feedback, then we're going to get cues, and the cues are going to serve as the signals so that we know when to change our message, when to change delivery, when to change tone, when to change timing, where to make those subtle changes so that we can be much more effective in how it is that we deliver the message. If we pay attention to cues, we're also going to be able to figure out when the listener or when the audience, when they have objections, when they have concerns, when there are things that they don't agree with. And we now know that these are things that we have to go back on and address them. Because if we don't address their objections and their concerns, then we're not going to be able to make progress with the presentation. Now, it doesn't matter whether this presentation is to a committee, like when you are looking for investment and you're presenting to 3 or 4 investors, like on Dragon's Den, for instance, or whether we are trying to get someone to buy from us today and we're trying to make a presentation about how our product is the latest, the greatest, and the best for their situation. We have to be able to listen out for objections, areas that they don't agree with us, and where they have concerns so that we can address them. And then, most importantly, another reason why we pay attention to cues is to confirm that we are on the same course. Because if we're on the same course, it means that we're making progress and that we can go ahead with the ultimate ask of our presentation. Because after all, in the business context, effective business presentations are all about trying to get someone to take the next step. So if it's in a sales context, the whole point of the presentation is to get the person to buy. If it's a committee meeting in church or a departmental meeting in the office, the point of the presentation is to get them to take action on XYZ initiatives or move this or other initiative along. And so this is the reason why we should be paying attention to cues and listener feedback and audience feedback when we're having our presentations. If we want to be effective anyway. So what kind of cues are we looking out for? The most accessible cues are going to be physical cues, and we get that from body language, basically, when we have people before us. Because from body language, you'll be able to see where people are in agreement with what it is that we're saying. Because depending on the cultural context, some people might nod, some people might smile. Okay, obviously, some people might clap. And then we're also going to see when they disagree because they're using closed off body language. Again, it depends on the cultural context. The reason why I'm pointing out this whole thing of cultural context is because you might come across some material that is written in the West, in North America and in Western Europe, and then they talk about folded arms as a sign that someone is being closed off. But that is something that is culturally conditioned. So, like among the Tiv people, because I'm Tiv from the Middle Belt, Benue State, or North Central, depending on how some people like to call it, in that area, sometimes someone folding their arms, especially if they're folding their arms and looking down or away, it might be a sign that they actually are trying to listen keenly to what it is that you are saying. So don't just read Western books or you get certain YouTube videos that say folded arms means that they're closed off. It depends. Some of these things are culturally conditioned. And even if you read Western material and they start examining different, they start examining different things about how people respond to communication, you will see that the way that the Oriental people behave, the Chinese, the Japanese, the rest of them, is a lot different from how people in the northern part of the globe behave. So North America and Western Europe. So some of these things are culturally conditioned. So you have to take that into account when you're examining physical cues. So the body language is going to tell us when they're in agreement, when they're in shock, when they're closed off, when they don't believe what it is that they say. So these are the more obvious ones. But sometimes, especially in much more formal situations, it might help to invite feedback from the audience because formal business situations sometimes are less expressive. And so people might not be upfront to let you know at the departmental meeting that what you're saying is absolute BS, or the client might not want to come right out and say, I don't believe what you said about XYZ, about your product. So sometimes we have to elicit feedback, we have to invite feedback from our audience and from the listener. So to invite feedback, all you have to do is to use questions to be sure that you're on track. So if you ask them questions, let's say you're talking about different features of your product, you talk about this feature and then you ask a question to be sure that they understand, or you can ask a question to see how this applies to their own scenario. So let's say you sell cleaning products, for instance, and for your cleaning products, they kill germs up to 99%, or let's say 100%. Let's say you have that magical thing that now kills 100% of germs. But let's say you are approaching someone who runs a woodwork shop. Now, for people who work who do woodwork and furniture and things like that, for them, they're probably not concerned about killing germs to 99% or 100% or whatever. So, if you say that our drugs our cleaning equipment tested by NAVDAC, blah blah blah, 99%, whatever, you ask. So, is that something that's important to your own business? And the guy might say, "Oh no, look, really, we do woodwork, so we don't really care about germs. For us, we need cleaning agents that can dissolve glue and can dissolve these kinds of adhesives that spill on the floor and spill on this material and this and this and that and that." Now, in this case, since you have elicited feedback from them, you have gotten a cue, you've gotten some responses. You now know that because you're talking to this carpenter, you don't have to go on and on about how your cleaning products kill 99% of germs. And you need to now focus on other range of cleaning chemicals that you have that dissolve glue, that dissolve adhesives, and maybe gets rid of lint and things like that. Because my guess anyway, because I'm not a carpenter, is that if people run wood shops, maybe those are the sorts of things that they will be paying attention to. So these are the ways that you can elicit feedback during the presentation. So you ask questions, you get feedback, and then apart from that, as you go along, you summarize. You say, so far we have discussed ABC, and I'm assuming that we're all in agreement on 1, 2, 3. Is that the case? And they're going to tell you that, well, I like 1 and 2, but I don't really like 3. And then that gives you room to ask more questions. Why? Help me understand, and then you're going to be able to go back and touch upon things that you have missed on in the presentation. Then it also helps to telegraph what the next step is going to be. That now that we're done with XYZ, we're going to move on to 4, 5, 6. Are we ready for that? And then, of course, you notice that some people might grimace, somebody might say yes, somebody might say no, and then you know that there's some more work left to be done. Now, the overall thing that we have to take away from today's episode is in the presentation, it's not just about how smooth and how poised we are during the presentation, and that the PowerPoint slides line up, and that we are quoting the right facts and the right figures and the right numbers. We should be paying attention to audience feedback, because the cues that we get, whether the physical cues or the responses from our questions, that's going to let us know which way we need to lean in the presentation, whether we need to emphasize this or de-emphasize that, so that we can be much more effective. Because at the end of the day, effective business presentations, or rather effective business communications, is about getting people to take action. So thank you very much for listening to today's recording. Remember that you guys can ask me anything on WhatsApp or Telegram. The number is 080-6466-2140. Again, it's 080-6466-2140. Just drop me a voice note or send me a text message, and I'll respond. If it's a voice note, I'll see how I can make that a part of the episode. And yes, the country code +234 for Nigeria. Again, the country code is +234. Now, speaking of telegraphing, the next couple of episodes are going to be summary sessions from a training session that we had with Evolve Africa. Again, we had one with them, I think, earlier in the year. And now we had a new cohort. And this time we didn't have one particular topic, but I was answering a series of questions. And I figured that those questions will also come in handy for my audience members over here. So we're going to spend the next couple of days to treat those questions. I haven't itemized them because I have the script, but having a look, I suspect we can be done with it in a couple of sessions, maybe 5 or 10. So for the next week, maybe week and a half, That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking over questions that we got at the Evolve Africa sales training session. So I'll invite you guys to stick around and come along with us on that journey. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.